The Jason Rigdon Show is recorded in Seattle, Washington in front of a live studio audience of indifferent but cute cats. You can support this podcast by giving us a rating and review on iTunes, sharing this episode on social media, or just by telling a friend about the show. You can also support the show financially on Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/Jason Rigdon.
Hi, my name is Justin P. Drew, aka Shushy, and I am an online streamer / comedian / kind of a douche, kind of a troll. Sometimes I love to troll people. It's my favorite thing. I highly recommend it. If you haven't trolled anybody, just troll somebody. Just find an opinion that you think is just embarrassing that somebody has shared, and then just mock them relentlessly for it. It's amazing. You can find me at twitch.tv/ShushyLives. Now, Shushy Lives is spelled SHUSHYLIVES. And you can find me twitch.tv/ShushyLives. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at ShushyLives, there. That's me. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, thank you for. I love the plugs. It's difficult when you try to get people to plug themselves and sometimes I'm here, sometimes no. You went right for it. So could you tell me a little bit about the topics that you cover?
So I have two different shows on Twitch. I have my Tuesday evening show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That is the film Simps, where it's a movie and television podcast, live podcast. Obviously you see our faces. So I don't know, is it a talk show? Is it a podcast? I don't know what the difference is anymore. They're kind of melding into the same thing lately. And what we do is we pick a movie. This week, we are going to be reviewing Possessor, written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg, who is David Cronenberg's son. And I'm actually pretty excited to talk about that because that movie was fucking phenomenal. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it. Every week we review a different movie. We also watch trailers live, and I think that's like the kind of like the appeal of the show, that a lot of people who haven't seen like the latest trailers, because people aren't going to the movies right now like they used to, obviously. So I think like people will watch our show and see trailers that they wouldn't have otherwise seen. And then we just come back and we either be like, oh, that's a fantastic trailer. Let's talk about all the cool things we liked in that trailer. Or we shit on it. There's one episode we did where we watched the trailer for Fat Man starring Mel Gibson, where it's basically like Rambo Last Blood, but with Santa Claus, and Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus. And it literally sent us into existential despair. It was we could not emotionally handle Mel Gibson. I mean, just Mel Gibson being in things still, I think is just still doesn't sit right with me, because it's like, I don't know. I thought we were like firing people for that shit, But yeah, so that's.
I thought that trailer was a joke at first. I thought it was like a Funny or Die kind of thing, that like they actually made this movie.
They made the movie.
This is done. This isn't just like a 5-minute skit.
Apparently the reviews are not kind, which good.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it would be bad.
Although there were a couple of lines in the trailer that made me laugh. I also just don't know who that trailer's for, because like it looks like a gritty R-rated movie, but then there's scenes with like a little kid like, you need to kill the fat man, and it feels like a 90s Christmas comedy, and it's like, what is this? Who is this for? My other show is my Saturday night show. We do that every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and that show is called America Has Issues. And that one is kind of more adheres to politics, and I'll have mostly comedians that I know from my 10 years doing stand-up. I have just from doing stand-up for a decade, I have amassed kind of kind of quite a Rolodex of like comedians that I know from various walks of life. One of my good friends is actually a writer for SNL. Her name is CMJ. She just released a Netflix special, which is incredible. Highly recommend watching Sam J's Netflix special. And so that one is a little, Film Simps is where we ignore politics, and then America Has Issues is where we kind of try to get into the nitty gritty.
And so how did it start? How did it come about?
Well, so I don't know if this made the recording earlier, but so I did stand up for 10 years. I quit stand up summer before last. I just got fed up with it. And also I just realized that the amount of time and effort I'd have to put into it to kind of be good was just counterintuitive to like the amount of time, because I had the best job that I had ever had in my adult life, and I had it for 2 years. It was selling flights to elderly people for vacations, and then COVID happened, and COVID just destroyed that job. COVID was created to destroy that job, and so I kind of wallowed in despair for a few months, but on my unemployment, I was getting like the extra $600, and I was just putting all that right into savings. And for the first time in my adult life, I had savings, and I had like kind of like a $4,000, a $4,000 war chest at my disposal. So I decided to invest some of that. I bought like a new gaming laptop. I bought like a capture card for my Nintendo Switch. I bought like a microphone. I bought, a bunch of shit to like kind of set up, turn my little office into my own home studio. And then I started trying to stream video games, but I like playing Smash Bros. It's my favorite game of all time. I'm not an incredible Smash Bros. Player. I'm better now than I've ever been, but that's because of the pandemic. But so that wasn't as appealing as I assumed it would be. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, my buddy Chris Brown, aka CJ Brown, who is my co-host for the Film Sims, he answered a Craigslist ad looking for a podcast host. And so I was just wading into the streaming world, and he like reached out to me and it's like, hey, do you want to just sit with me on this podcast? Like, I need to just record a sample podcast. We need to review a movie. And the movie he chose was Guns Akimbo on Amazon Prime with Daniel Radcliffe, which is stupid, but kind of fun. It was a kind of a fun movie. And so I got like really high, and him and I just kind of riffed back and forth for an hour. And then he actually sent me the email. So it turned out to be for this website that I'm still pretty sure is a scam. It's a film bookcast. It's a it's like film/book.com. And it's hilarious. If you go there, it's like totally like a click farm. And so they like reviewed, like, it was so funny. They sent him an email back and they reviewed the episode we sent them, and they were like, well, I do have to say that you guys had no form to your review. It was just totally stream of consciousness the whole time. You didn't go through it methodically at all. You guys had no structure to the talk, and it was just clear that you guys were just setting yourselves up, each other up for jokes the whole time. And then we were like, I was like, oh, they hate it. But then the next paragraph is, that being said, you two elude in energy, and you have a lot of charisma and chemistry, and we'll be happy to have you on. So it's like, we hate you, but we can't deny that you got something there, and so we did a few episodes with them, but then they were like, I don't know, they were doing all like the technical stuff on the back end for us, and then they wanted us to start doing the technical stuff. They wanted us to like, edit it into a podcast and like post it and like tag it and do all this shit. But it's like, this is your podcast, I'm not, you're the one who's making all the money from this. I'm doing this for free. So we were like, you know what? Early on, we talked about, because I mean, we both looked at the site and we're like, man, this site, film-book.com, dude, like this website is a front for like this is what QAnon is like. QAnon is trying to find these people right here. Tom Hanks runs the site, and so early on we were like kind of like, well, what would we call it if we did it on our own? And then Film Simps was one of my suggestions that I just like the idea of, like the Film Simps. And then our Twitter bio says, if Martin Scorsese had an OnlyFans, we would subscribe. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just curious about this company. What exactly were they bringing to the table then?
They were hosting us on their site.
Okay. Which you can get for free other places, right? Like Anchor will host you for free.
Anchor will host you for free. They made it sound like, oh, well, you'll be plugged into our site and our network of podcasts.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah. But looking at them, they weren't. If it was Earwolf, yes, hell yeah.
Yeah.
If it was some big podcasting, it was Team Coco, like it wasn't though. These people, I looked at their YouTube account. Some of their previous podcasts had 0 views. It's like I can get 0 views. I can get 0 views very easily, So
yeah, it's actually hard to get 0 views. Like someone is going to watch.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive. Like nobody's clicked on this. Nobody like you didn't. Did you post it? Did you post it anywhere? So that's. But yes, we did a couple episodes for them. And then we just switched to doing the Film Simps, and then we've been doing this Film Simps for a couple months, and we've kind of gotten to a good rhythm, and that's when we started watching the trailers live and kind of reviewing them on air and stuff, and that was pretty fun, and yeah, it's just kind of evolved from there.
And then for your political show, how was that? Was that like kind of an add-on later, or how did that come about?
That did come up like a kind of like a few weeks later. I was collaborating with this gentleman, Trevor Monreal, who is a guy I met through Twitch, and I've done his podcast, Must Be Catchy. And he posted in his Discord that he wanted to start a political show. And I told him, I would totally be your co-host for that. And so then we did it, and it was like the first one we did was like on a Saturday night. And it went really well, and we were going to call it Breaking the Compass. And then he a few days later told me that he couldn't do Saturday nights anymore. Or no, the last minute the next week he said, "Oh, I can't do tonight due to something." And I was like, "I'll just host it on my channel." And then I wasn't affiliated yet at that point, but doing streaming in the politics category, between 7 and 9, got me more viewers than I've ever had on my channel. And I was like, oh, I think there's something here, I think I need to I think I can kind of carve out a niche for myself in this thing. So then he said I can never do a Saturday night again. And that's when I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm sorry. I gotta, I got to make some money. So I went and I started America Has Issues, and it's been going pretty well. And I get pretty solid viewer. We get a pretty solid amount of viewers every Saturday night. We have live comments. It's always fun. Sometimes we'll get alt-right trolls, and that's hilarious.
And it seems like it's not just one of those shows where you're just talking to the camera. You have kind of like a round table.
Yeah, I have a little panel. I always try to get 3 people on with me. You're doing it this Saturday.
Yeah. So how has that been of bringing these? Are these people that you know, or are they people like me who are just strangers you found off Craigslist?
Both, mix of both.
Okay.
Some of them are streamers that I've met online. Some of them are comedian friends that I've had forever. And try to get a good mix of people. Doesn't always. I found that the levels can get kind of wonky. Sometimes if you have too many people that aren't very funny, just the dry people, then the episode can be kind of dry, but informative. It can be it's either really dry and informative, or I'll have 3 comedians on, and then we'll never really get to anything interesting or smart, but it'll be funny. We'll all be riffing, It's a mixed bag. It's kind of spin the wheel.
Yeah. So for the follow-up, like you send people out like a list of what your topics are going to be, or is it just kind of like wide open?
I collect like articles over the course of a week that I want to talk about. I mean, it's always like, we haven't been doing it, and I'm sure that if I continue to do this for another 6 months to a year, and you and I talk, like, touch in again around that time, I'm sure that it'll have evolved into something more sophisticated. But basically, I just keep a Google Doc of just articles, and most of it is, what did Trump do this week? Who did Trump yell at? Who is Trump suing?
And how do you see your role in that show? Are you kind of, I think about always like those roundtable discussions of, remember the old McLaughlin group where he would just be yelling at people? Are you like the harsh, do you like try to harshly control like people's time and stuff? Because sometimes it can be difficult.
Well, I will. I've admitted this. I've admitted this at least once on my show, and I have no shame in saying it, that I'm the only political talk show host that knows less about politics than Wolf Blitzer. My whole goal is to get into a feud with Wolf Blitzer. And I mean, here's the thing. I have to like have things explained to me a lot. I consider myself a progressive, but I'm also scatterbrained and ADHD. So sometimes my function in it is to try to kind of keep it to a structure, keep the conversation moving. Also, just being, the level of zero budget that I am currently, sometimes I kind of just have to like, mentally bail on a conversation to like try to fix some fucking sound issue that is just happening under the hood of this thing. That was like a good like 25-minute chunk of my show last Saturday where some people were in the chat were like, we're hearing double sound. And so I was like barely talking as I was just click, 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 like, oh, does this work now? Did I fix this? But generally I try to keep people on topic. I do try to share if we're talking about something in which I have like a passionate opinion, I do try to share it. But on the flip side, I also don't want to go at any one person too hard. If two people, and we've had this a couple of weeks ago, we had one dude just talk about how much he loved the Alex Jones episode, like the recent Alex Jones episode of Joe Rogan. And this other dude was like anti-Alex Jones, just fucking like, I can't believe Joe Rogan would give this guy a platform. And I got to watch these guys just go at each other's throats for 45 minutes. And I did a couple of times. I had to be like, hey, let him finish his thought. It's his time to talk, So that most of the time though, what I try to do is I try to like think of a joke real quick and just kind of intercut with a bit, or with a funny line, just to keep it fun, especially if it's getting too, I don't want it to be too, I don't want my politics show to be too politics, I don't want it to be too serious or, God forbid we actually talk about a single issue.
No, you're having these people on. Have you ever had any instances where, you're kind of a little bit afraid that you might, like you're saying with the Alex Jones stuff, that you might be canceled or whatever, get in some kind of trouble because of one of your guests and what they might say?
Well, I mean, what is really canceling?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if people people have been trying to cancel me since I started stand-up. I mean, from my time doing stand-up comedy in Boston, I've had some whales, come and try to take a swing at me, and yet I am here. I persevere. Nevertheless, I persist, right? And yeah, it's I don't have those views. I didn't listen to the Alex Jones episode of Joe Rogan. But I think that on the, how I feel about it is, if we're going to act like, there's nobody who likes this guy, and there's nobody in the world who is interested in the content he puts out, then you're going to be really surprised when this guy gets elected president. I know that there's this whole kind of, thought process that it's like, you don't have to entertain people who, think that you should have no rights. And to a certain extent, I believe that. But I also feel like the left will label people that even if they're not necessarily that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people will call Ben Shapiro a Nazi. Ben Shapiro is Jewish. He's not a Nazi. I think he's an idiot. But I don't think he's somebody who should be ridiculed when he gets into public, or if he does, it should be like for his WAP shit. It should be for the hilariously dumb shit he says and does. But we shouldn't treat him like this guy's the head of the SS. This guy is calling for Gestapo, because that's really not the case. And at some level, you do have to, 70 million people just voted for Trump, and I've seen morons online talk about, oh, well, as soon as it's clear that Trump is lost, trust me, these people are going to drop off and they're going to stop supporting him in droves like you never believed. Yeah, no, you haven't learned a fucking thing the last 4 years. You have not. You've learned zero lessons. This is the attitude. You just want to go and politically hibernate again, like you did for the 8 years Obama was president. And that's when all this shit came to fruition. This is when all those little fucking seeds that were planted sprouted and budded, man. These people aren't going anywhere. So, you gotta be able to talk to them. You gotta be able, that's why I'll have people, I specifically try to get at least one or two people who either lean conservative or, are self-avowed Republicans, and make sure that I have an opposite voice, make sure that I have a leftist or, a liberal, somebody left-leaning. And because I do feel that makes for the best conversation. And we've had a couple of the episodes, and the first 5 episodes are on Spotify. I'm just being lazy with the latest one. And if you go search America Has Issues on Spotify, you can listen to them. Although some of them are 3 hours long. I don't know why you would. I haven't listened to them. Holy shit, I wouldn't do that. But we have some really good conversations about police brutality and just income inequality and stuff, and the making the minimum wage $15, and we have argues for that, for this shit, and argues against it, in defense of the police, people criticizing the police. And when people actually have to look at each other's faces, and you have to look at the face of the person you're talking to, it completely changes the dynamic. Because I've had people who I've literally seen kind of go at each other in Facebook comments threads, who have been vicious and disrespectful and nasty. But there is a psychology to sitting on a Discord chat and looking each other essentially in the eye as much as you can on a Zoom.
Maybe too much in the eye. That's kind of one of the complaints about it, is you're just staring at each other.
Yeah, getting a lot closer than you would talking in person.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
And but it changes the dynamic, and people who I've seen be really nasty to each other online will actually have a reasoned, smart, insightful conversation that at certain times has actually kind of changed my mind on things. And I think that's beautiful.
So we're recording this on November 10th, 2020, of course. What do you think about this current political moment we are, where, the current sitting president is kind of refusing to concede? There's a lot of conspiracy theories about the election. He's firing people in the Department of Defense. It's very strange.
I think that it's been great for my Twitter career, because I had a tweet go viral a couple days ago that's been pretty sweet, where I said that this felt like the last 20 minutes of a horror movie. The monster's dead. The monster just died, but there's 20 minutes left. Oh shit. Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel. I mean, I don't know. I think that from all the legal analysis I've read, I think that he definitely lost this election. I think like anybody who advocates for him, being the victim of fraud really isn't somebody whose opinion I respect very much, because from everything I've read, every legitimate, like even Fox News, like every legitimate news source has acknowledged his win. Multiple prominent Republicans have acknowledged his win. He's only, I believe, in the margin for recount in Georgia, from what I understand, and he would have to pay out of pocket to recount any of the other states he's contesting. And also, if you look at I'm on his email list, and he's been sending out more emails than ever lately. And literally in the fine print of them, it's like 50% of this is going to go to retire debt from the campaign. So he's just, it's clear to me at least that he knows he's not going to win this election. He just wants to, one, gas up his followers, just get them, just start the Democrats off on the worst possible foot for the next 4 years. Two, make money to pay off the fucking, whatever shady shadow people he owes money to. And then three, just destabilize this country even more than he's destabilized it over the last 4 years.
I feel like in the last, maybe 10, 20 years, we've kind of really started talking about things in our country, the way our government actually works, that are very strange, like the fact that we can fire someone and they stay on the job for another 2 months.
I know.
Like, I've been fired before. If someone left me for 2 months, I probably would do some things I would regret later.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I used to work at Starbucks, and I had a boss that was very just emotionally and psychologically abusive to me. And what I ended up doing to just kind of spit in that person's face on my way out is I had like a week of vacation time. I worked there for 6 years, and I got a week of vacation time out of it. And so I planned
America.
that. Yeah, America. And so I planned that. I scheduled that week like 2 months ahead, and the day before I left for vacation, I put in my 2 weeks notice. So it's like, yeah. So I have my week off next week, and then the week after is my final week at work. Suck it.
Yeah, well, I imagine you're having more fun, although it probably doesn't pay as well as Starbucks being a streamer. Are you at the point where you are one of these big high-rolling streamers? Or
No. I'm very much at the beginning of the process. I still need to... I got my podcasts. I need to figure out how to get upwards channel growth. I need to figure out... I do need to stream more often, for sure. I need to get back into video games. I think I just need to figure out what game is going to be. I don't think it's Smash. Maybe it'll be Smash. I'm thinking maybe if I play Smash on stream and I try to make it about, well, I'm not very good, but I'm trying to get better. Maybe that'll be my angle. That's just something that I'm considering. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds? When I first started this, I couldn't have imagined doing like America Has Issues or Film Simps. So I'm sure that something's gonna come out of the woodwork and put me over the top. But either way, I'm just trying to have fun, man. It's just, the world is a scary, dark place, and I have severe depression to a point where sometimes I just can't physically move from my couch for days at a time. And so I just try to not let the despair get me.
And if people want to learn more about you and your shows, where should they go?
Like I said at the top of this show, you can find me at twitch.tv/ShushyLives. Again, that's SHUSHYLIVES. And I stream every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern for the film Simps. My film and movies and trailer watching podcast. And then every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I have America Has Issues, and you can also find every episode of America Has Issues on Spotify. And I'm gonna try to get the latest episode up tonight before whenever this airs, Mr. Rigdon.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to have you on my show this Saturday night.
You've been listening to The Jason Rigdon Show. More information and links for our guests are in the show notes. For more information about this show, visit jasonrigdon.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, email jasonrigdon@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 425-835-2766. Our theme music is Bush Week by Nihilor and used under the Creative Commons Attribution License. This episode is copyrighted by Jason Rigdon in 2020 and is freely available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. Thanks for listening and have a great day.